Hey everybody, welcome to the fourth video and our last video in our introduction to using Google Sheets. In today's video, let's take a look at our goals for today. We're going to be creating a chart, and our 4 steps are going to be looking at the different options and types of charts, and then how can we change the chart options. And then how can we change the title of our chart? And how can we change the size of our chart? Okay, let's jump straight in. So when I left you last, we looked a little bit like this, and I just realized I had skipped a step. You might want to add some colors like we had talked about in an earlier video to make it look pleasing and beautiful. So go ahead and feel free to do that. I like to use the lighter colors. And don't forget to try and come up with the formula for mode on your own. Okay, let's look at my exemplar. Okay, so they look very similar now, but our last step is to put in this beautiful and colorful looking graph or chart. So how are we going to do that? So our first step is to create a chart, and then let's look at our different chart options. What we need to do first is click A1 up in the corner and drag it over all of your data. For now, let's not use the formulas down below. So we're clicking from A1 down to E14. Then let's go up to this little button that says Insert Chart. Let's click it. Awesome. It guessed, based off of my data, the best type of chart for that particular range of information. So what I'd like you to do is actually look at chart type. This is our first goal. Why don't you try clicking through and playing with some of these different options? So we have these line charts. We have a stacked step chart. What does that look like? Whoa, awesome. Let's try another one. A bar graph. Hey, that's pretty helpful. Let's try a pie chart. Interesting. There are all kinds of interesting ones down below as well. Take a look at, let's try, how about this one? Whoa, what an interesting way to visualize my data. I wonder what this is showing, though. So for today, I'm going to choose one of the suggested ones, one of the more simple looking graphs. Cool. Now what I'd like to do is look at the different options within that chart. So when I click it, I can see a few different things. So up at the top we have data. Then we have customize. Let's start with data. So first we tried with chart type, and we've already played with that. If we wanted to change the range, remember the reference range that we talked about before? We have A1 to E14. What if I wanted to change it to E13? I didn't want to include that last day down below. I could go ahead and hit enter. And notice how when I change my data, it changes live. Let's put it back to 14. So there's that one last day down there. I'm just going to move this over for a sec. So did you hear what I mentioned earlier? When I clicked and changed the range, it changed my data live in my chart. So what if I changed this day? That big spike on the 16th. What if I change that? Because that might have been an accident. Let's try changing it to 4. Let's see what happens as soon as I hit enter to this area here. Awesome. So it's almost like a living graph or a living chart that can update as we're inputting new data. That's so cool and so helpful. Okay, let's double click this again to bring up that chart editor. So under data, we have now the x-axis. So what is being represented here? We want A1 to A14. A1 to A14. The date. Perfect. Series, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different series of data. So what you notice that there are 4 different colors of lines here. Those are called the different series of data. And it got them all correct. We want to look at sit-ups, push-ups, burpees, and jumping jacks over time. Awesome. There are a couple more options down here that you can play with as you see fit. But I have found that Google Sheets is usually pretty smart about finding how the chart should be organized initially. But feel free to play with those. There's one more option, Customize. Chart Style. Let's click that. Background color. I think I kind of liked those lighter colors. White is probably going to be sufficient. We can even choose the font. So if this is a personal graph, we might choose something that's not professional looking. Okay, and that's okay, it's for me. But if I was doing this for school or for a job, I might want to choose one of the more professional looking fonts. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Arial. There's some other interesting options for this particular graph. I can click Smooth. Ooh, isn't that cool? It rounded out the corners. I like that. Maximize. Cool. Let's see what that does. Hey, look at that. It doesn't have any of that white space around the corners. I like that a lot more. Let's go to the next one. Plot null values. So null could be a 0 or it might even be an empty. It didn't really do too much. How about compare mode? It didn't really do too much with this particular data set. So what I encourage you to do is be an explorer and try playing with it and seeing what it can do. So it goes on with a few more options, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Okay, so we've finished the first, the second goals. Let's look at this really easy one, changing the title. So we have this automatic title up at the top. Let's double click that. Let's try changing it to My Exercise Log and go ahead and hit enter. Perfect. Before, Google had guessed what it should create as the title. So it just took our series, which we really didn't need. This is much better. Okay, our last goal is going to be resizing it. I'm going to close down the chart editor. And what I'd actually like to do is make this the same size as my data table. I'm going to drag it up to the corner. Cool. Let's make it just a little bit bigger. Awesome. Doesn't that look great? So I have my data table, and I have a big chart next to it to visualize my data. Now, if I was to do an initial analysis of this, I would say, hey, I'm doing a lot more burpees than any other exercise, and I'm also noticing that from day to day, I change a lot. I wonder if this is when I'm recovering, when I'm healing, and then on these days are when I have more energy. Looks great. So we have now finished our 4 goals, and we have a really beautiful looking data set. Thanks for watching, guys, and good luck on collecting data. See you around.